The U.S. Navy has poured $9.7 billion into the USS Nimitz, and that's not even counting the billions more spent just to keep her running and maintained. It's a staggering figure for a true icon of American power. But the story we're telling today isn't about her glory days, it's about why those days are officially coming to an end. Think about it. For nearly 50 years, the Nimitz has been a titan on the high seas. She's sailed through the Cold War, the Gulf War, and the War on Terror in the Middle East. It's wild to think that a ship designed for the world of the 1970s is still, even now, one of the most advanced warships on the planet. The USS Nimitz is currently the oldest nuclear-powered aircraft carrier still in active service. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button for Air Power Edge right now. Today, we're breaking down exactly why she's being retired, and why the Navy is ready to walk away from such a multi-billion-dollar powerhouse. Don't forget to smash that like button, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Alright, let's get into it. Part 1. The Steel Fortress at Sea Arsenal and Devastating Power. Before we talk about why the Nimitz is being retired, you need to understand exactly what's being retired. This isn't some old frigate quietly leaving service. This is one of the most heavily armed warships the United States has ever put on the water. And when you look at what she carries, the question in the title becomes hard to answer at first. How do you walk away from a ship like this? Let's start with how she protects herself. The Nimitz is often called a floating airport, but that description doesn't really do her justice. She's a fortress, and she's armed at every range you can think of. Her short-range defense is built around 221 Cell Rim 116 rolling airframe missile launchers, which are designed to shoot down incoming anti-ship missiles before they get close to the hull. Backing those up are two Mark 29 launchers that fire the Sea Sparrow surface-to-air missile, a medium-range interceptor that has been improved many times over the years. And for anything that gets past both of those layers, she carries two Phalanx CIWS units. These are 6-barrel rotary cannons that fire thousands of rounds per minute, and they handle threats in the final stretch when there's no time left for missiles to react. But the defenses don't stop there. She also has 4 Mark 38 automated 25mm gun turrets, which are useful against small fast boats or close-range threats, and 10 heavy machine gun positions in the 50 caliber class placed around the ship to deal with anything trying to get near. So picture it this way. Before an enemy can even threaten the aircraft she carries, they have to get through several overlapping layers of fire, each one designed for a different distance and a different kind of threat. Now here's the part most people don't know about. The Nimitz isn't just built for defense. She also has a nuclear strike capability. Each ship in the class was built to store and deploy more than 100 nuclear-tipped weapons. These aren't conventional munitions, they're strategic-level weapons, and they aren't limited to one role. They can be used with anti-submarine systems to take out enemy submarines deep underwater. They can be loaded onto strike aircraft to hit hardened targets on land. And in the worst-case scenarios that military planners prepare for, they're capable of hitting entire cities marked as strategic targets. So now you can see the contradiction more clearly. This is a warship with no obvious weakness. She has layered air defense, point defense, gun systems, dozens of strike aircraft, and a quiet nuclear option held in reserve. By almost every measure the Navy uses, the Nimitz is still a serious threat to anyone who would face her. So what pushed her out of service? The answer is in that $9.7 billion figure. Part 2. The Curse of Time and the $9.7 billion burden. Here's the hard truth that no amount of armor can fix. Time itself becomes the problem. And for the Nimitz, time has been adding up for 50 years. Start with her power source. The Nimitz runs on a nuclear reactor, which sounds like the perfect solution. Unlimited range, no refueling stops, decades of operation without needing to pull into port for fuel. But there's a catch. The reactor core only has a useful life of about 25 years. Once that time is up, the ship has to go through what the Navy calls a refueling and complex overhaul, or RCOH. This isn't a quick fix. It's a multi-year process that takes the ship apart, replaces the reactor core, rebuilds key systems, and costs billions of dollars per ship. So the promise of unlimited energy comes with a bill that shows up on schedule, and that bill keeps getting larger every cycle. Then there's a problem that doesn't get talked about much. Metal fatigue. 50 years of service means hundreds of thousands of catapult launches and arrested landings. Every time a 30-ton fighter lands on her deck, the impact travels through the hull. Every catapult shot puts stress on the structure. Multiply that by 5 decades, and you have a steel frame that is, in engineering terms, simply worn out. You can patch panels and weld in reinforcements, but you can't repair your way out of basic physics. There comes a point where the whole structure is at its limit, and that point isn't far away. It's here. And then there's a third issue weighing her down: the cost of keeping her running. The parts that were used to build the Nimitz back in the 1970s aren't made anymore. The factories that produced them have closed. The engineers who designed them have retired. Spare parts have to be custom made, sometimes one piece at a time, and that gets very expensive. Then there's her crew. Over 5,000 sailors live on board because the ship was never designed for automation. Almost every system requires a person to operate it. Compare that to newer designs, and it becomes clear why the Navy started looking at the Nimitz less as a warship and more as a daily expense that keeps growing. Part 3. Falling behind in a new era of warfare. But even if the cost problem could be solved, there's another issue coming from outside. The threats have changed. And the Nimitz, for all her strength, was built for a kind of war that doesn't exist anymore. Look at what's being developed today. Hypersonic anti-ship missiles, glide vehicles that can maneuver at speeds and altitudes that older defense systems weren't designed to handle. China, Russia, and other countries have spent heavily on weapons that are specifically meant to find, track, and destroy American carriers. And the Nimitz wasn't designed with stealth in mind. Her radar signature, her heat signature, and her size all make her exactly the kind of target this new generation of weapons is built to go after. And then there's the power issue. This one might sound strange, because we just talked about her nuclear reactor. How can a nuclear-powered ship not have enough power? The answer is in how that power gets used. The Nimitz generates plenty of energy to move the ship, but the future of naval combat doesn't just need propulsion, it needs electricity. Laser weapons, directed energy defense systems, and electromagnetic launchers all need very large amounts of electrical power on demand. The Nimitz still uses steam catapults to launch her aircraft, which is a technology that has worked well for decades but is now behind the times. Modern warfare wants electromagnetic launch systems, or EMLs, and it wants laser-based defenses and eventually railguns. All of these technologies need a power supply that the Nimitz simply can't deliver, and you can't add that kind of electrical system onto a 50-year-old ship without basically building a new ship inside the old one. Part 4. The inevitable replacement making way for the Gerald R. Ford era, so the Navy made the decision. Retire the older ship. Make room for what comes next, because the replacement is already in service, and she solves the problems the Nimitz can no longer solve. The Gerald R. Ford class is what happens when the Navy took everything it learned from the Nimitz and started over with a fresh design. Automation is the biggest change. While the Nimitz needs more than 5,000 sailors to operate, the Ford runs with hundreds fewer, and that adds up to billions of dollars saved in salaries over the life of the ship. She uses the electromagnetic aircraft launch system, EMALS, which replaces the old steam catapults. That means she can launch heavier modern aircraft, like the F-35C, more often, and with less wear on the airframes. And the reactor she uses produces nearly 3 times the electrical output of the Nimitz, which leaves plenty of capacity for laser weapons, railguns, and whatever else comes in the next 30 years. The Ford isn't just a replacement. She's a platform built for a kind of war that hasn't happened yet. So when you step back and look at the full picture, the retirement of the Nimitz isn't a failure. It's a handover. 50 years of holding the line at sea, 50 years of carrying American power around the world, and the cost for that half-century of dominance comes out to about $9.7 billion. That's not the price of failure. That's the price of an era. The Nimitz earned every dollar she cost, and now she steps aside so the Ford can take over for a battlefield she was never built to face. So what do you think? Does the Ford class really have what it takes to replace a ship like the Nimitz? Is the U.S. Navy stronger or more exposed during this transition? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear what you have to say. And if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, share it with someone who's into military analysis, And subscribe to Air Power Edge so you don't miss our next deep dive into the weapons shaping the future of war. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.